Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nexus. This is M, and we are in this new video talking about the Richmond Sector Qualifier. Today with me, Ollie. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm doing good, man. I'm very excited. This is the biggest Star Wars tournament that we've had so far, and the first really impactful one of the new meta since the bans. So I'm very excited to see what people have been cooking with, where people are taking the direction with their new decks into the new meta, and it's going to be super varied. It's going to be really informative for the upcoming tournaments, including Lille next week for anyone who is going.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. We're back still in the new house, so the lighting is still all over the place. But thanks so much for all the support on the channel. And please do consider leave a like and a sub if you're watching, if you're enjoying. And let's look at the top 8 list. First of all, let's set the scene. As Ollie said, biggest tournament yet. 598 players. We're breaking records every tournament, so it's great to see how popular the game is. This is Swoo Competitive Hub. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. There's a lot of other informations in terms of how the top leaders have converted as well, but we'll talk through it as we look at the top 8 list, because that's what we want to review together today, starting from Anakin Skywalker Colossus. So Anakin Colossus, we have seen it in the previous sector in Liverpool. Our good friend Yosera piloted it to top 4, although it was a very different list, Ollie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was much more specialized towards the Django meta at the time. Lots of unique cards in there, like direct hit, obviously, to deal with Django. And I think a big package that was omitted from this particular list was that
Yeah,
Steeler Guerrera package.
for sure. I
Um,
mean, not only, yeah, it was like a bit more like space hate, but it was almost a completely different list and a completely approach to playing the the leader and the base combo, because Yosera played a as you said, a Stila package, which is events, which is about like 15 or 16 events even. Here, those are left behind along with Stila for much more ground and space unit uh, based deck, as well as um, kind of like an old combo, if you will, from set 3 when the leader came out, which is the Jedi lightsaber with Bravado. So, kind of going back to its origin almost, in terms of becoming a deck that really relies on the leader flip and then tries to close the game with huge chunk of damage, but now is relying on those early game units, those 3 costs, to come in and either control the board or start hitting for some damage the opponent.
yeah, I think the list in general looks a lot more aggressive than the list that Joshua piloted back in Liverpool, and obviously the Jedi lightsaber bravado combo contributes towards that and is a little bit more viable now that Django's gone. Although I will say I'm surprised that it's not the kind of thing that gets punished a lot in this meta, with I imagine Bamboozle being quite a popular card now as well,
Yeah,
especially with Quinlan taking up a much larger portion than before.
absolutely.
I will say I really like the inclusion of Cham in the main board. I think this card should be seen in a lot more main boards than it was previously,
Yeah.
because I think control is back in a big way this meta. I think it's got some real big potential and real big representation. So
Yeah,
being able to see Chams in the game one is huge.
I
And there's
agree.
also that 3 mana 3/3 shielded, which I find very interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
that
I
was
think
included, right?
the reason why this is here is the Outer Rim Outlaws 3 cost 3/3 shielded. Personally, I tested Anakin Colossus a lot recently, and one big challenge is Sabine, which, spoiler alert, won this event. We're gonna see that list. The Sabine flip is just really, really challenging for this deck, which essentially uh, wants to resource Cassian. Like we start with one less card. On 3 resources, we want to play like a Red Squadron X-Wing, draw a card. But then on 4 resources, like we don't have a way to really deal with the Sabine flip unless we find a takedown, which this list doesn't even run. So the 3 damage is very, very key because we can pump and kill the Sabine on 4 resources. So I think, I don't want to speak for this player, but I think maybe where they were going was I need to be able to remove 5 HP, not just the Sabine, but all the 3/5s that are going around. So this unit being able to be played for 3 with a shield, clearing a 5 health unit and stay on the board, I think is massive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it
Mm.
kind of acts as a second set of 3/5s for the deck along with Cassian,
Yeah.
because it can take that first hit into a 3/5 and then be used again to trade into another one if it needs to.
Yeah.
I think the only downside that I can see is the popularity of Quinlan and Cad being able to just ping off the shield is probably a bit annoying.
Mm.
But yeah, like you say, for those more aggressive matchups like the Sabines, it'll be really huge.
Yeah. Nonetheless, congrats to them. The one last thing I would say is I also love Cham, and being that we start with one less card in some matchup where they're not ramping, you can actually consider not putting a resource for 5 and just play Cham and ramp to 5, and essentially you have an extra card. That's how you get
That's
your
very true.
draw. That was a fun interaction, but really, really cool list. I guess the sideboard is kind of like really feels like there's a little bit of upgrade hate. There's the Great Dragon for the longer matchups, but nothing crazy, I think, there. And then we've seen an old classic almost, it feels like, with some innovation, but not too much. Your beloved Cad Bane Tarkentown.
I
What
like
can
how
you
you
tell
say
us?
my beloved, like
Yeah.
you weren't playing it in the same tournament as
Mm.
me.
I love it too, but you were far more successful.
Well, yeah, I'm always very happy to see Cad Bane doing well, and I think it's very well positioned in the meta right now. Like you said, there's some very interesting stuff in this list, but overall, I think it's fairly standard. Main standouts are Jabba is back in, which I think we saw getting cut from a lot of Cad Bane lists before the Django ban because
Mm.
it was considered too slow of a card. But now that control decks are potentially a thing again,
Mm.
the value that you can get from Jabba is really huge. And we see
Guess a
Bamboozle,
bamboozle.
yeah, the spice, the tech. Um, Obviously, it can be searched by Jabba and it can be played for free just by pitching a yellow card. It doesn't have to be heroic.
Mm.
So, and it's a very, very strong card in the meta right now.
Yeah.
I think me and you were discussing just before recording about the Hound's Tooth, which is an interesting inclusion.
Yeah.
I'm guessing because people used to run the Sentinel for Django, the 3 mana 2/4. But I'm guessing that with Django gone, you kind of have a bit more control in the space arena. You don't need to worry about playing Sentinels there so much. So the Houndstooth lets you be a little bit more aggressive and
Mm.
take the favorable like shoot first trades that it can get.
Yeah, I think like one of the main thing is probably that it trades with the Falcon, and they have to
Yeah,
because otherwise you just take it for free. Um,
yeah, it trades with Red 5 as well.
mm, but it's interesting that the punishing one is completely disappear from this list, leaving I guess space to also the Miss Hunter, which is a
Mm.
card draw most of the time in this deck. Um, Personally, I
Yeah,
like
Mist Hunter is such a nice card. I'm a
mm,
really big fan of it.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's a very good body with 3/4 in space. It's pretty nice. I mean, uh, Cad Bane is still like top tier uh, leader For me, the 6 deploy is now not a problem. And I mean, Yellow has so many tools. And they can play
Yeah.
Charm as well.
Yeah, very
It's
true.
red.
And they have much more sideboard space to deal with the control matchups. Like you see the Devastators and the Lurking Ties in there. Now that DJ's gone, they don't have to dedicate so much space to dealing with answers to that, like force chokes.
True.
I am very interested to see only the one IG-2000. I think a lot of people were very high on that card when it was released for CAD because it's also an underworld unit, so it has really good synergy in the deck. But
yeah, I'm not
just
a
the one
fan
in the
of
sideboard in this list.
one-offs inside, but it worked for
I
them.
love one-offs. I think they're great.
Yeah, congrats for the top 8. Han Solo Yellow. So
The old classic.
yeah, so obviously
We're seeing all
DJ.
the old favorites pop up now.
Yeah, DJ has been banned, but Han Yellow, still has so many tools, and obviously, well, first of all, a lot of like good chunky 3 and 4 drops with the 3/5s, 3/4s, etc. But also Tech is still a great card, and obviously double yellow enables not only Cunning and Cantina Bouncer, but now a new addition, the Mandalorian. So double yellow unit that can also pilot and does what yellow loves to do, which is exhaust enemy units.
Yeah, it's an incredibly strong card. And I mean, looking at the list here, it's almost a set 3 deck, except for the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
The only changes being that DJ also is omitted from the list because it's been banned. But yeah, Han Yellow is still a very strong deck. It's very hard to resolve valuable Tarkin towns into this deck, which I imagine a lot of people going into this tournament were expecting a lot of ping Tarkin town decks.
Yeah.
Quinlan struggles to resolve it because Han is always playing a turn ahead, and Cad just struggles to resolve it because Han's playing shielded and 3/5 units. So it's tricky to see that. I am surprised to see a lack of piloting stuff. I know we've got the Mandalorian, but I know there were some like very pilot heavy, much more aggressive Han Yellows floating around before.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see things go back to that more value oriented engine with like the 7 drops back in, the techs back in. Even though DJ was banned, maybe Han Yellow can still play the long game.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's quite a few different lists going around. Obviously, also I almost forgot Body Rook as a double yellow powerhouse.
Just all the hand hate stuff is so good.
Yeah, I mean, you still get the selective discard with the Spark and the Body Rook, and then you have the hand hate with QiRa, which is still selected, and then the Ahsoka Tano as a non-selected discard is still a tier 1 deck, I think, in my mind. And I like the sideboard that is literally just equilibrating, like changing some of the numbers there of already existing cards. Like you get the extra bamboozle against maybe like more upgradedy or piloty decks. You get the extra Spark, the extra Body Rook, the extra Ahsoka Tano. I love the approach of just like, okay, I'm just gonna, change the kind of the proportion of certain cards that I see are, overperforming or underperforming in this specific matchup.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of a sideboard strategy like that. It kind of keeps your main deck a toolbox for all the matchups in game 1, and then game 2 you can really specialize and zone in on what your opponent's trying to do.
Yeah.
And also another big thing for this list is we're seeing another deck main decking Bamboozle here, and that's going to be a common theme throughout a lot of these lists, I imagine, because this card is just crazy right now.
You were asking why they're not playing more pilots. Well, that's why.
Yeah, it probably is, honestly.
Yeah, but congrats to them. And now we move on to QiRa Datavault, which this one was piloted by John Tata. Shout out to Tata. we met in a previous life, previous
Previous
TCG,
games.
both as competitors and casters. So it's great to see he's doing so well in this game. And funnily enough, today he has run essentially the same list that I run at the sector, but with 60 cards. So QiRa Datavault, you will see we're not showing all the stats from this event, but there were a lot of Datavault decks floating around. Obviously, there are 600 players. You get a lot of things, but Datavault is definitely the surprise for me from this past weekend because especially in the US, we always see like how stingent they are on like playing 50 cards deck, and you relate with them because I've never seen
I'm
you
exactly
playing
the
more
same.
than
Yeah.
50 cards. So like consistency and making sure that your plan is executed correctly. And Datable throws all that out of the window, but it turns out that if you have two callers that have a lot of good cards, after 4 sets, you have enough cards to play a deck that maybe is not consistent in the way of, you know, the same play lines every game, but you have cards that kind of like advance your plan, being, survive early game, control the game, then, get into your big late game stuff and just win the game, essentially, said in the less words possible. But what do you think about this list, Ollie?
Yeah, I mean, it looks very solid. I think I can't really speak too much on QiRa. I've never played the deck personally myself, but I really like the approach with Datavault, like you were saying. If a color combination has got 60 good cards in, then you might as well play it with Datavault here, especially if you're trying to go for that longer game. And I think it's especially good with a color combination like blue, green, black, where they have a lot of not only very strong cards, but very similar cards that can kind of fill each other's roles.
Yeah.
Like we have the classic blue removal suite of Fell the Dragon, Take Down, Power the Dark Side, No Glory Only Results, Rivals Fool, Vanquish.
Mm.
You can, when taking a deck from 50 to 60 cards to try and see if you can facilitate that data vault base, you can often just add a higher quantity of cards like that to keep your deck overall the same, where it's like, okay, you've instead of 8 removal spells, you go to 10 removal spells, and instead of 3 Vaders and 1 Maul, you go to 3 Vaders and 3 Mauls,
Yeah.
and maybe like a little bit more top end, and then you fill out some of the 2 drops as well, like this player's done here.
Yeah.
And it ends out with kind of the same deck, maybe a little bit less consistent, but like you'll have the same game plan and you'll have those same cards that are just as flexible in each different spot. And
Yeah.
you're reducing diminishing returns technically by playing 60 cards. So that's another plus, I guess. You'll have a much more flexible hand in most cases.
Yeah, the challenge is comes with the sideboard, I think, in 60 cards, because
Yeah.
if you need something specific for a matchup, like for example, in my list, I ran 3 scanning officers inside, and I would love to have 3 scanning officers in this side as well, but like go find them, right? And you can't even fish them with Darth Vader. So that's why you're probably seeing, the top targets, which helps you stay alive, the Palpatine return, which is essentially like creating more redundancy in what you're trying to do. And particular like more resilience against like long hard control decks. So
Yeah. It's
really
especially good
interesting.
in a 60 card build as well because you're much more likely to only see 1 Vader throughout the game. But if you have 6 Vaders instead of 3, then you're going to see them more often, right?
That's right. Yeah, and there's so many targets for Vader in this deck. Congrats to John. And then we go to another kind of old friend from a previous TCG, Alex Blandin. Also, John Tada's teammate was piloting Han Solo 1 Green. So Um,
I think piloting there is the key word as well.
yeah, pun intended. Alex has been um, playing Han Yellow, double yellow, for as long as I've seen him playing these games, honestly. And it seems like he decided to switch to green since the ban. And I have to say, like this deck feels insane to me. It has so many turn one play that are just scary, quite
Mm.
frankly. But what do you think, Ollie?
Yeah, I think this deck is definitely not one to overlook. It got a lot of new tools in the Jump to Light Speed set, and they've helped kind of shore up a lot of the deck's weaknesses in previous sets.
Yeah.
We all know the famous like Han Green play of get to 5 resource with a turn 2 resupply ideally, and then ramp twice with your leader and drop a U-wing on turn 3, and that's
Mm,
like the perfect idea of what the
mm.
deck wants to do. Um, but
Yeah,
before
Ewing
this
on
deck,
3 sounds illegal to me, to be
it's so
honest.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some games that this deck just wins because of that. And with the new set, it's introduced all of these crazy pilots that really reward you for dropping things like Millennium Falcon on turn 1, which
Mm,
this deck was kind of looking to do anyways.
mm,
Um, so you get rewarded for making your strongest early play. And then oftentimes, if you drop like Millennium Falcon plus Chewbacca or Millennium Falcon plus Han, you can just start racing some decks, especially the like mid-range ones
yeah.
that can't deal with it. So this deck has like a lot of really, really cool 2-card combos or 1-card combos
Mm.
that you can look for, which I imagine is why he's not playing Datavault instead of the 30 health.
Yeah, I mean,
But it,
you really want to follow some specific lines, I think, to kind of get in big chunks of damage on, like,
yeah,
you know, even like turn one with the Millennium Falcon, which, by the way, we have the full package, almost 8 different Millennium Falcons. So you run the new Han Solo, which gives it a pump and a attack, strike first, essentially, or shoot first. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just looking at this list and I'm just thinking, wow, like even against, I think Alex lost against a Sabine, and I watched the games. I feel like it felt really close. The second game, first game, it felt like I think the Sabine just found everything they needed. Um, but nonetheless, I think this list looks great. I love the one confiscate in main. I think it's really good foresight. And then huge shout out to the salvage in the sideboard,
we
which
love
is
salvage.
a spice that we wanted to bring in a deck that we're working on. But I think like a few folks have already figured out like how good it can be.
Yeah,
Um,
especially good in this deck because not only do you have
so many
Millennium
vehicles.
Falcon that you can bring out, obviously Home 1 is the main target. You can bring out the Millennium Falcon in ready, and I believe you can also bring out the stolen AT Hauler right
Oh my
after
god,
it's
I
killed
just
to stop
realized
it
that.
from,
That
yeah,
is
stop your opponent
crazy.
from taking it, which is very fun.
Whoa. That is funny. I mean, some stars needs to align, but it's still really, really
Yeah,
cool.
of course. I
Cool.
am surprised not to see Bamboozle in the deck. I think this deck does struggle with hand size a lot more than the previous
Yeah,
yellow decks,
there is
but
Wele, which costs more and it's not the same thing, but uh
yeah,
yeah, there's no bamboozle. That's a good point. But yeah, congrats, Alex. And then we have Quinlan Tarkin Town. So Quinlan was one of the most represented deck, one of the, I think the deck that converted best. I think we have it on competitive Swoo. So
it was
yeah,
definitely the deck people were hyping up ever since
about
the ban.
yeah 17% of top 64. So we actually have one. I think it was in top 4 or top 8, obviously, and the finalist, Michael. So maybe we can just look at them side by side and comment on the main differences. One that I will call out is First of all, like the finalist list seems like much more streamlined, 3 of everything apart from a few cards, whilst the other list seems a bit more balanced out in tech choices, and it's still run Ezra and Red 5, whilst the finalist has kind of like switched for some main board upgrade hate with disabling firefighter and the 3 off guerrilla soldier.
Yeah, Guerrilla Soldier is a card I was looking at a lot last format as a potential option for Quinlan.
Mm.
But I never honestly tested it, and well, felt like I tested it enough.
Mm.
But it is a very cool card. It aligns with what the deck wants to do, obviously, with all of the pings that you're dishing out with your leader skill.
Yeah.
And the Disabling Fang Fighter, we've talked about how prevalent upgrades are in the format right now,
Yeah.
and how good Bamboozle is. So why not just have more of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, Gorilla is especially interesting because if you can remove their turn 1 play, then on turn 2, if they play a 3 cost, that you play Guerrilla Soldier, you ping that 3 cost, and then they have to ditch, uh, they have to deal 3 more damage. And they might find themselves having to choose between putting it on base or killing their unit.
Yeah.
So it can just pose like 5 damage on turn 2, which is pretty big. And it's still a very, very fast deck that also can deal with, mid-rangey lists because of that heavy discard package. So even lists that wants to go longer, I think we've seen uh, a game on stream that was against, I don't want to say something wrong, but I think it was definitely like a green villainy list, I believe, and they like discarded 3 walkers from their hand. Like it's a list that is so oppressive. It can aggro you, and it can kind of block your game almost completely. So
It's a
I
very
think,
disruption focused deck. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think this deck is correctly like represented in terms of how good it is, or do you think it's overplayed and it's
I
not
think
that good?
I think it is overplayed right now. I think a lot of people have seen that it did well in the previous format. It was like the second most represented deck in a lot
Mm.
of tournaments after Django, and it had some decent performances when it came to like top 64 and top 8s as well.
Mm.
Um, so I think a lot of people have seen that and just kind of taken the second best deck from last format and moved it over to this format. But I think Quinlan quite naturally wants to be a counter deck rather than be the meta deck. Like it's a
Mm.
deck that has a lot of cards that work very well with it, and so you need to know what you're playing against to build the deck correctly. And in such an open format, or a format where Quinlan is seen as the best deck, it can't really do that very well.
Mm.
So it's kind of a clash of its own identity that's causing it to, I think, be overplayed a little bit without people really
Yeah,
considering that.
it's kind of funny because I think these two lists are like quite different in a few
Yeah,
ways. And
I'm
shout out
seeing as
to,
well. There's no one drops between the lists either, other
yeah,
than in this sideboard. There's
that's a
two
really good
Greedos,
flag. Yeah, there
which
is
is
Greedos.
something that
There's jam
can be taken
communication
advantage of.
in this one. Um, Shout out to the Mace window, 1 copy inside.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah. But yeah, congrats to
Super
both
good in the mirror.
for I think actually the finalist Ben didn't lose a single game until the final. I'm
I
pretty
thought it
sure.
was Michael that was
Oh, sorry,
finalist.
Michael. Wait, did I duplicated the lists? What did I do? Yeah, I think I clicked something and I duplicated the lists. That is crazy. But Michael,
Cut that
yes.
out. Cut that out.
Yeah, cut it. congrats to them, and then congrats to our third sector winner. I think so.
Yes, yeah.
With Sabine ECL. Wow, who would have thought?
This deck's come back in a big way after the Django ban.
Yeah, I mean it was literally kept in check by the
Yeah,
Django. And we all knew that as soon as Django, uh, you know, was suspended, um, the actual, well, the OG best aggro deck would have come back.
yeah, absolutely. And it got so many good cards from
I know
the
every set
most
it just
recent set as
gets
well.
more cards. I just can't believe every set like I see the list and I'm like, what did it even come out? What did it even come out? Because like there's so many new cards, like 3 Lukes, 3 Sabine Masterpiece, 3 Phoenix Squadron A Wing, um, 2 Chewbacca. Like so much has changed in this list, and they now play the Sundari main, which I think a few lists did in the last format as well. But
I think the Sundari is a really good meta call as well
yeah,
because it gives you those extra 5 health 3 cost units. Because Sabine against any Cad or Quinlans will want to pass turn 1 to
mm,
avoid losing the turn 1 play.
mm,
And if they're then able to go into either a Cassian or a Sundari, then
yeah,
it means they're not going to lose their turn 2 play either, which is
correct.
really huge. So I really like that inclusion there too in the
Mm.
main and then the third in the side to go into those matchups.
Yeah, I think also on the games that I've seen, timely intervention played a huge role, like massive, every
Mm.
single game. I think I saw him winning 2 games at least with timely intervention. And I think I'm pretty sure it was like winning 2 games. He won 2 games with timely K2SO into something.
I think
Um,
timely intervention got so much better with the inclusion of Sabine's masterpiece as well,
mm,
because it's such a cheap and early ambush unit that sometimes you just want to ECL in,
yeah.
but knowing you have the timely interventions then later,
Mm,
or even on turn 4, you might use timely intervention plus the Sabine's masterpiece
yeah.
if it's giving you that value.
Yeah. And the on attack
Masterpiece can like
stacks.
one shot Millennium Falcon. It can
Mm,
send out pings. It's so good.
yeah. It's really, really strong. And obviously, we still have the Dark Sabers. The side is interesting. It feels like the side is like it's like mirror match. Is just a mirror match, pretty much.
Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, the 3 Rebel assaults in the main, I think, alone says that he was prepared for any aggro deck still
Yeah,
coming.
yeah. Um, Huge card. I like the Fighters for Freedom inside because I think it gives you the chance to deal with those heroic mid-range decks with the Village Protectors. Because it has Saboteur,
Yeah,
right? Um,
yeah, that's very true.
so I think it's a very, well crafted list that obviously was piloted super well. So congrats to them for winning the sector qualifier in Richmond. And this will essentially complete our brief top 8 list review. Ollie, is there any last thought that you wanted to share about the tournament, about this list, anything in particular?
Yeah, so obviously, congrats to all the players who put on a performance in this tournament. And I hope you guys have learned something from this that will help you in future tournaments for the upcoming meta that we're seeing develop right in front of us. Especially if you guys are going to Lille, obviously we're going to be there as well. So give us a shout if you see us, and best of luck to you in those as well. Let us know what you're playing.
Absolutely. Yes. Leave us a comment. Let us know what are you playing if you're coming to Lille, or if you don't want to let us know what you're playing because obviously you want it to keep it a secret. Let us know what you think about this tournament and about these lists. And we will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. This was Take care.